Come here. You're all tangled up. Get up out of there. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, wherever you happen to be in the world today. Welcome one and all to Coffee Talk. It is time once again for Coffee Talk Live, where we will be having some discussion about what is going on in the world today. We'll take a look at the news and have a little bit of dialogue with those of you who are able to join us for the live portion. And if you are listening somewhere else and you would like to join the live portion, you can find us Monday through Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, most of the time on YouTube, on Coffee Talk and Prepper University. That's at Coffee Talk Live and at Prepper University. You can find us on X at Coffee Talk Chat and fistfulofradio.com, podcasting out of Atlanta. Being joined today by three felines. Finally got some cats in the room. It's last couple of days they haven't been around, but we got Uncle on the floor there. We've got Granny Smith on the floor, and we've got Monkey sitting here. I just pulled him out of the cables. He was all tangled up underneath the computer and acting weird. So three felines keeping us company today as we get ready to dive in. Naturally, as always, I do read through as many of the comments as is reasonable. And I will go ahead and say hello to some of the people that have chimed in so far to say hello. I see that Donna Beaver is here. She reminds people thumbs up, like, and share. Helter is here. Dragon is here. Brian is here. Chillin' Dave. D-Lo. Cyberjack Sr. Jericho is here. He tells us the ads are getting worse and more frequent on YouTube, especially on my videos. Oh, my God. He says, I don't know if you're still sanctioned, but I noticed that since you said you were, ads started popping up on your videos. Yeah, they, I know for sure the one that I did with the Joe Biden parody was sanctioned. The cartoon, for sure. The other ones, I'm not sure about. I mean, there is a little bit trickling in from AdSense. It's not a fortune, but I'll take whatever I can get. You know how it is. Country Living is here. Says, beautiful day in Minnesota. And Jericho goes on to say, whereas before there were never any ads, and I know people get paid for having ads. Funny how they'll sanction your channel but won't pay you for ads. Yeah, some you do and some you don't. And you don't always know. You don't always know. But if they give you the yellow strike, and you get a yellow dollar sign, it means you may or may not be getting anything from the AdSense. And they do that to me intermittently. It's not as bad as it used to be, but yeah, I'm not banking here if that's the case. If that's the question, I'm not rolling in dough like some of these bigger YouTube channels are. But as we get ready to jump off here and take a look at what's going on in the news. Naturally, Hurricane Milton is a big deal. Monkey, come on now. Okay. Hurricane Milton is a big deal, and all of the conspiracy theories around FEMA have been a big deal, but they want to let you know that everything's okay. They don't want you to worry. They don't want you to worry because we are all one big happy family here at FEMA. And we're here to help you. CBS News article. FEMA leader vows whole federal family will respond to Hurricane Milton. Oh, there she is. That's Deanne Criswell, and she is the current executive of FEMA. She's in charge. I don't know how good of a job she's doing, but she's in charge. And I believe it was under her watch that they had the diversity and equity training and had that infamous training video that was exposed last year and has resurfaced, where they were ordered to prioritize LGBT people in disasters. Yeah. So FEMA Administrator Deanne Criswell said Wednesday that the agency has a layered approach to staffing. Along with being just one part of the federal government's support mechanisms, amid concerns about resources as the agency prepares for powerful Hurricane Milton as it barrels towards Florida shortly after the deadly Hurricane Helene. Quote, "We're just one part of the team," Criswell said on CBS Mornings early Wednesday. "We bring in the whole federal family, the entire federal government, to support the efforts that are going on across all of the states that have been impacted by the storm." Let me just clarify. The government is not your family. It wants to be your family. It wants to be Big Brother, and it wants to watch you, and it wants to guide you, and it wants to control and monitor every aspect of your life. But they are not family. They are not your family. That's a scary statement. They're not here to help you. FEMA exists as an excuse for how much tax money is taken, because you figure if they're going to rob you blind in taxes everywhere you go, you may as well get something back. That's why FEMA exists. Debris from Helene, which made landfall on September 26, is still on the ground in Florida as the state braces for Milton. Meanwhile, the New York Times, and of course this is from yesterday, reports that less than 10% of FEMA's resources will be available to respond in the aftermath of the hurricane. Less than 10%. Criswell said the figures represent a specific disaster management-focused part of the agency's workforce, while noting that the agency has other employees available. Yeah, are they going to clean the mess up? In fact, when everyone signs on to work with us, we make them sign a statement that says every employee is an emergency manager, Criswell said. Oh, okay, that makes it so much better. You made them sign an extra piece of paper. So we start to repurpose some of our steady state employees from headquarters, but we also move people around from non-critical life-threatening offices or open field offices that we have to support the immediate needs. So if necessary, you take unskilled, unqualified people from desk jobs and have them stand around in disaster areas for show. Gotcha. Gotcha. And Country Living says, family helps each other. There's no family with FEMA. And Tuck is here from Florida. Okay. And he says, love your impersonations of all the idiots we talk about. Just trying to keep, the Country says that. Just trying to keep it from being too tedious, as it were. As I pointed out before, the news being exposed to just regular news every day is toxic. So we may as well have a little fun with it. Puck says Google Operation Popeye. And Brian says, quotes himself, only stupid people like the government. Chillin says it's so easy they can 1099 them at the end of the year. And then Jones Life said, setting up a shotgun chest rig on a budget, heavy and a mess of UCP nylon, but it's operational. Ah, interesting. Interesting. So, yeah, the director of FEMA wants you to know the government is one big happy family, and they are here to help you. They're here to help you. That's all they want to do. We're family. We're the whole government family, and we are here to help you, the federal government. The federal government. And, you know, that rings of the warning from Ronald Reagan, who was really a lot better of a president than people give him credit for, looking back. He was anti-government, anti-big government, anti-IRS, and he didn't pull very many punches. Remember, what was it, the 9 scariest words in the English language? I think that's how it goes. I'm from the government, and I'm here to help. And Helter says, while she's residing in a hotel room, people are left to fend for themselves in the elements. Left to fend for themselves in the elements. Indeed. Indeed. But that, yeah, we bring in, quote again, we bring in the whole federal family, the entire federal government, to support the efforts that are going on across all of the states that have been impacted by the storm. You're just trying to justify how much money you take from all of us. Because I pointed out before, you do not just pay income taxes. You do not just pay, and I'll put that up from Puck so you can see what he's talking about there, Operation Popeye, for those of you who are watching. You don't just pay income taxes. By the time you boil it down, you probably pay half of your earnings in taxes. You pay taxes if you buy something, taxes if you sell something, taxes on your utilities, taxes on your property, taxes on your vehicle. You pay taxes on everything that you buy or sell or do. And when you boil it down, Reagan said that too. It's like people don't realize how much they really pay. It's a lot more than just your income. It's a lot more than just your income when you stretch that out. Look at what's going on with the gas right now. And I've mentioned this one several times. Gas is down right now. They removed a single tax, one tax, and there are several on gas. And it went down as much as 50 cents in Georgia. Just like that. Just one tax. Jericho says they're about as family as the Soviet Union. Remember, Jericho, that they used to call Stalin Uncle Joe. Sweet old Uncle Joe. He's watching out for us. Sweet old Uncle Joe. To give the illusion of that family aspect. Because we are comrade. We are all comrades. Indeed. Dear old Uncle Joe. That's the old propaganda. And this popped up, and I thought this was interesting. It's a fact check from USA Today, so you know I'm going to pick it apart. FEMA can't seize land or property from disaster victims. Okay. So on October 5th and October 5th Facebook post makes a claim about the Federal Emergency Management Agency, which helps victims of natural disasters. Quote, do not sign any contract with FEMA. Read the fine print. They're giving you a loan. If you don't pay it back, they will take your land. It was shared on more than 4,000 times in 3 days, whatever. Our rating, and that is USA Today's rating, is false. FEMA can't seize property or land from people who apply for federal disaster assistance. The agency's aid does not typically need to be paid back. All right. Now, notice the wording on this. I'm going to make a point. Their rating is false. It says FEMA can't seize property or land from people applying for federal disaster assistance because the agency's aid does not typically need to be paid back. It doesn't mean that all of it doesn't need to be paid back. It may not typically need to be paid back, but there are circumstances by which it might. Also, FEMA will not directly engage in that, but that's what other federal agencies are for. So that's like if we were to flip this, if I were to hire someone to beat somebody up, and they came to arrest me, and I said, hey, I didn't do it. That guy did it. Would that fly? Or would I be charged as an accessory? It's the same concept. If they can get some other agency to collect for them, then they are still responsible. They are still responsible. I get his point though. I don't know all the nuances of that, but I get the point, and I would be really careful about signing any government contract, period. And Country says, and the government blames big oil for the high gas prices. Indeed. And I've mentioned it before. It was a long time ago. It was in the 90s. I worked for Cumberland Farms. Cumbies, for those of you who are on the East Coast who insist on saying it. Cumbies. I worked for the Cumberland Farms gas station, and they told me, and I don't remember how much it was at the time, but that basically the station made less than 12 cents a gallon. The rest of it was all fees and taxes. Granted, it was probably like $1.40 or something, or 30 cents. I don't remember. But think about that. Kimberly is here. Glad you could make it. And Puck says FEMA bureaucrats are very useful as far as using up resources in a disaster like shelter, for example. And Chillin says scumbies. Indeed. Cumberland Farms. Cumberland Farms. But yeah, they claim that it cannot be taken away by FEMA because FEMA doesn't directly do it. That's kind of dancing around the subject. Nice going, USA Today. And Raccoon has joined us. And Chillin says we still call it Cumbies. Shame on you. I didn't know they still existed. I don't know. Because I know Christie's is gone, right? Christie's Market is gone. And Little Peach is long since gone, right? From the East Coast. There's a lot of stuff that I grew up with around there that's gone. Bradley's, Little Peach. What is it? Purity Supreme Supermarkets. Flanagan's Supermarkets. Yeah, a lot of bankrupt companies. Zales. Ringing a bell with anybody? You might have recognized those places when you were kids. If you grew up on the East Coast. Chillin says $2 for a large coffee. The cup costs more than the coffee. That's something else I learned at Cumberland Farms. Don't let anybody waste the cup. You know how sometimes people put 2 cups? Don't let anybody do that. And what am I going to do? Fight with a customer because he got 2 cups? Because, you know, to keep from burning their hands, they put 2 cups and fill the coffee in there. I'm going to jump over the counter and wrestle somebody to the ground because they used 2 cups for their coffee. Yeah, okay. That's going to happen. But they were like, no, the cups cost more than the coffee. It's the most expensive part. It's still like that. Puck says that they have freakouts at Cumberland Farms. Yeah, there was some weird stuff that happened in Cumberland Farms. Store 24 was the weirdest experiences when I worked at Store 24, but that was a midnight shift, though. And Raccoon says they worked at Bradley's in the 90s in the toy department. You know, I was happy. I worked in Bradley's. I worked for Bradley's. And Puck remembers Zayre's. The weirdest thing that happened was it was actually, this is Store 24, though. A guy, and again, I worked the midnight shift, so it's like 3 o'clock in the morning, right? He comes stumbling. I know we're off the news here, but that's okay. You take the journey with me. He stumbles in. I might have told this. Did I do a Store 24 video? I don't remember. He comes stumbling into the store in full tactical gear. It's all black tactical gear. And he had a holster, but the holster slot was empty. So there was no sidearm in the holster, okay? And it wasn't marked. It didn't say police or anything on there. You know how they stick the Velcro patch on or whatever? So he's wearing black. He looks like SWAT, black tactical gear. And he stumbles into the store. And it's a bald guy, black bald guy. And his head is split like this. And his blood is just pouring down his face. And there's another guy that I'm in there working with. There's another guy I'm working with, and we're like, holy shit. And we ran and we grabbed him, and he took shop towels and pressed it on the top of dude's head and held on to him. And I was like, yeah, you got him. I'll call for the ambulance. And the guy starts yelling, no, don't. He's like, don't call nobody. Don't call nobody. Dial this number. And he rattles off a number. And it's a sequential number. I'm not going to say the number. I still remember it. He says a sequential number. For example, if I said dial 12121212, like that, right? And he's like, don't call an ambulance. Don't call the police. Call that number. Call that number. And I dial the number, and one ring, somebody answers. Yes. And I said, hey, this is Store 24. We got a guy in here with his head split open, said to call this number. He says, we'll be right there. Hangs up. I didn't even tell him where I was. 2 minutes later, 5 guys dressed in SWAT. Again, no moniker. Sheriff, police, FBI, nothing. Just in gear. They were armed. Pick him up and carry him out. Didn't say a word. Didn't say a word. Strangest freaking thing I've ever seen. at the store 24. Brian says, was Cumberland Farms the place where this skimpy woman called you something when she didn't even read? Yeah, she was the one that was couldn't figure out the gas pump. Cumberland Farm story. Couldn't figure out the gas pump and came in and yelled at me. You are a stupid man. You are a stupid man, with like this weird European accent. Oh my gosh. But anyway, that's enough trip down memory lane here. We can get back to the news. Somebody, yeah, I heard a thump. We can get back to the news, Fox News article, because we're talking about our vice presidential nominee, Harris, covers her mouth and says it's a live broadcast after stumbling through a Hurricane Milton speech. Did you catch that? Did anybody see that? Puck says Mission Impossible. It was something impossible. I don't know what was going on, but I told the manager about it in the morning, and he was like, yeah, maybe we better just not write that one up. Maybe we ought to just not write that one up. And I never called anything but that phone number. I just kind of left it alone. I figured if they knew where I was after being on the phone for like 30 seconds without me telling them the address, I better stay the hell out of it. Vice President Harris, during a Hurricane Milton update from the Federal Emergency Management Agency on Wednesday, covered her mouth and appeared to tell staff she was on a live broadcast after stumbling through a speech to the people of Florida. President Biden, yeah, she sounded like a moron in that because she was live. President Biden and Harris received a brief from disaster relief authorities on life-saving preparations for Hurricane Milton. The two also received the latest updates on the forecasts and expected impacts for Florida. While Biden attended the meeting from the White House, Harris and others attended virtually. They were all virtual, okay? And you can see the panel right here. It's the freaking Brady Bunch. Everybody was virtual. Nobody was at ground zero. Nobody. So whatever. At one point during the briefing, Harris covered her mouth and appeared to relay a message to someone else. And that's, let me see. Do they have a direct? No, they don't have a direct picture of that. It's right here, though, upper left-hand corner. That's when she covered her mouth. And I think, I'm willing to bet someone's talking to her in an earpiece, which she's been suspected of before. She was suspected of that during the debate with Trump. And she's probably like, yeah, I'm live. You know, probably maybe they were distracting her or it was coming too fast and didn't think anyone would hear it if she covered her mouth. Puck says the Kamala clip was hilarious. But there we go. It's a live broadcast, she could be heard saying. The moment came nearly 20 minutes after Harris stumbled through a speech to Floridians. She glanced down multiple times, appearing to reference notes on a script. Yeah, it's tough without the teleprompter, isn't it, sweetheart? It is tough to have to remember what you've been told to say when it's not on a screen up in your face like this. I know, baby, it's all right. Don't worry. You keep cranking it out. You keep cranking it out and waste all those taxpayer dollars on ads talking about Project 25. Quote, we ask you that by every measure understand it's going to be more dangerous, more deadly, and more catastrophic. So please listen to your local officials, Harris added. They know what they're talking about. They know what they're doing. And if you're told to evacuate, please evacuate immediately. Do not wait until it's too late. The guy in the boat fared okay. You saw the guy that refused to get out of his boat? He's fine. I don't know if anyone saw him in the news. But that's her, and that's after DeSantis refused to talk to her. She gave, because, well, she's insulted him before. I don't blame him for not talking to her, but we're going to get to that in a minute. Chillin says she just that tapped in the melon. No, she's just that tipsy. Yeah, well, she drank beer with Stephen Colbert. And she drank a Miller. She drank a Miller beer with Stephen Colbert. And that beer was specifically picked for her because it's supposed to resonate with blue collar workers. I'm serious. it's it's supposed to resonate with blue collar workers, so they drank Miller. You think a middle class? I was born in a middle class family. First of all, let me tell you, you think that with her upbringing and middle class family, you can throw that out. Her mother was a very prominent doctor. Okay, a very prominent doctor. She was not middle class. She was a lot higher than that. Who grew up in San Francisco in Canada, sits around drinking Miller High Life. Kimberly says, I saw the boat guy, not his first rodeo. And Puck wanted to know if I saw FEMA's Waffle House Index. No, I didn't see that. A couple more here. Dragon says that she tried to sound strong and confident, but always comes off weak no matter how hard she tries. She can't convince me or anyone I know she's in control. She is an insincere candidate. And all people said surprised she did not choose the Bud Light. Well, I mean, Bud Light was boycotted, but that's not the beer that the advisors told her resonated most with blue collar workers. It's Miller High Life, baby. And H12 says, I doubt she has calluses on her hands. Of course not. Of course not. And Chillin says Red Stripe. Do they still make Red Stripe? I don't know. I don't drink. I remember the beers because I used to sell them when I worked at Christie's Market and places like that. But I didn't drink. Sven says she's an acid and coke tripper. Ooh, not sure how else you diminish your intelligence to that level. And Country says everyone had nice yards in her neighborhood. Yes. And Raccoon says, I thought she was supposed to be black. Shouldn't she have been drinking Colt 45? Oh, you're giving me flashbacks of Billy D. Williams now. Black eye, Colt 45. It has to be in the bottle and it has to be in a brown paper bag, though. And not a 20 ounce either. And Kimberly made a donation to the channel. Thank you, Kimberly. Very much appreciated. Very much appreciated. All the help we can get here as we try to move around. And there's just in case 40 ounces of malt liquor would have been even funnier. I know. And all people, one more here, and we'll get to the next article. Her granddad was a diplomat from India. That's right. To a nation in Africa. Her maternal lineage, the Goplans, control the Communist Party of India. And she has inadvertently in the past quoted Karl Marx. She has quoted Karl Marx in the past. Every once in a while, people catch it. Raccoon says, funny thing, I was in line to meet Billy D. Williams, and he said I sign up that Red won't be signing anything Colt 45. Okay. There you go. Don't sign anything. He won't sign anything Colt 45. Oh, that sucks. That sucks. But we did mention DeSantis here. And he has talked about cutting her off. He's talked about refusing to talk to Kamala. And he makes a good point. He actually makes a really good point. So I pulled up the article. And this is The Hill. The Hill has this article. DeSantis, according to DeSantis, Harris is trying to inject herself into Florida's hurricane relief effort. Trying to inject herself. So Florida Governor Ron DeSantis accused Vice President Harris of trying to insert herself into the Hurricane Milton cleanup effort after the two traded barbs this week about the storm. That's why he refused to talk to her. CNBC's Andrew Ross Sorkin asked DeSantis about his communication with the vice president after Harris accused him of playing political games by not taking her calls to discuss Hurricane Helene and Hurricane Milton. However, DeSantis responded that he is working with President Biden and Federal Emergency Management Agency Administrator Deanne Criswell, adding that he worked directly with the president during previous storms. Quote, and here's his point: I didn't even know she was trying to reach me, but she has no role in this process. And I've been dealing with these storms in Florida under both former presidents Trump and Biden, and neither of them ever politicized it. And in fact, all the storms I've dealt with under this administration, although I've worked well with the president, she has never called Florida. She's never offered any support, according to DeSantis. He added, so what she's doing is trying to inject herself into this because of her political campaign. So as the governor here who's leading this, I don't have time for those games. I don't care about her campaign. Obviously, I'm not a supporter of hers. Wow. Wow. He didn't pull any points. Kimberly says their daddy drank PBR. He was a blue-collar worker in a steel mill. PBR, Pat's Blue Ribbon, right? Pat's Blue Ribbon. So maybe that's what they should have been drinking. Do they still make that? I have no idea. I don't know what's in. I can't remember. It's probably been decades since I even set foot in a liquor store and wasn't in there for liquor, obviously. But that's DeSantis's position, that he doesn't. He's never heard from her. He's already working with the appropriate people. This is not his first rodeo. He's done this before, and he called her out. Hey, you don't care. You don't care. You're just trying to check a box on your campaign. I don't have time for that. I don't have time for that. We've been hit by 2 hurricanes in a row. I'm busy. I'm too busy to play politics with you, honey. I'm not mad at him. I'm not mad at him at all. And Puck says the closer we get to the election, the more helpful Kamala wants to be. I know. Isn't it sweet of her? Kimberly says they still make it. The Paps, okay. And Jericho says people were pissed that he ignored her calls saying he's killing his people. He knows what he's doing. He knows who to talk to, and it's not her. It's not her, and I agree. He was like, I don't have time to play politics with you, sweetheart. I'm busy. Chillin says they aren't helping. I don't blame him. Yeah, if she can't contribute anything but flapping her gums, there's no point. There is no point. We'll get into some corruption here in a moment. And I'll throw that up from all people if anybody wants to see that. It says, talking about Kamala, advisor to Jamaican Prime Minister, bringing Marxism to Jamaica. The economy has failed, and he relocated to the U.S. And that her mother's family runs the Indian Communist Party. There you go. There you go. And age 12 likes DeSantis, and Chillin says he has balls and need more like him. And Kimberly says DeSantis hung up a phone call with Biden a few years ago. I don't blame him. And before I get cranking here, update on the felines real quickly here. And Uncle is still in the room. Everybody else took off, but Uncle's still there. You can see him kind of schlepped out on the floor. Looking for yet another agency to work with, because originally I was working with Halo House, and Halo House kind of left us hanging. And then I worked with Pause, and Pause helped us with 2 adoptions, and now they can't help us. So like, we're too full. We can't help you. So what it's going to come down to, and Fluke Man has joined us. Glad you could make it today, Fluke Man. What it's going to boil down to is I'm going to end up, in order to break up the clowder. And for those of you who aren't familiar, a clowder is a colony of cats. In order to further break up the clowder, to prevent ending up with 80 cats in the woods back here, I'm going to have to go out of pocket with some local agency for TNR, which is trap, neuter, release. And Ladybug has joined us. Glad you could make it. As well as Cougar. And it says, may I ask what your plans if the law enforcement ordered you to the high school when you were trapped in that town? Would have been your plan of action? Shoot, I don't know. I don't know what I would have done. I would have tried to avoid it. I mean, if they told me to go to the high school, I would have said, yeah, okay, and drove somewhere else. I would have done whatever I could to avoid actually ending up there without trying to get into a confrontation with law enforcement, because unfortunately that's a situation you can't win. You can't win that. But with the felines, you know, with the kittens, we got 6 kittens and 1 mama. And I'm like, God, if I can, it really what it boils down to is 12 animals left that still need TNR resources. And to make matters worse, if I can't find someone locally to do it, if I go out of the county, they won't help you. They will not help you if you're not in the same county as those services. So it gets weird. It's like, do you want to do something about these animals or not? And Fluke Man says, does Humane Society have your reputation for putting down healthy animals? I believe so. I don't trust a lot of the agencies, even the ones that claim to be no-kill shelters. But at the very least, if I can get them rounded up and worked on, I can bring them back and still at some point adopt them out. But at least I won't end up with another brood of kittens. I won't end up with another ton of kittens. Like I said, I've got 6 right now after just adopting out 7 through Halo House. You see what I'm saying? And it's like, okay, we're catching up. There's 1 female back there. This is feral mama back there somewhere. Got pregnant again. Couldn't do it in time because Halo House left us hanging. But you have to, if I pay for it myself, I can do it. But a dozen cats at around $100 a pop? Seriously. So if I could at least get the females done, I can get the males done later and not have to worry. You see what I'm saying? So I'm just putting it out there that I'm thinking about if I can get hooked up with another local agency, and I'll find out what they're going to charge, and then I might do another GoFundMe to see if I can get it taken care of once and for all. Puck says ASPCA has a sketchy reputation as well. As I get ready to get back in here, Ladybug says, "Wow, indeed." And Chillin says, "What's the cost for several at a time? Bulk rate?" They don't have one. They don't have one, and I have to do it all myself. And they won't come out here. It's not like on Hoarders, okay? That was prearranged by the network. I have to catch them myself, bring them myself, get them back myself, and pay for it all if I do that. That's why I try to find help. And like I said, I had Halo House. They helped me to get 7 kittens adopted and 4 TNRs. And then they left me hanging. And then not Halo House, Paws took 2 to adopt. And then they were like, no, we're too overloaded. We can't help you with anything else. Good luck. It's like, good luck. I'm going to end up with 50, 80 cats if I'm not careful. And Preparedness HQ has joined us. Glad you could make it today. And H12 says they got their cats from Brookings, South Dakota shelter. Maybe they could help you. South Dakota. And Kimberly says I could check Floyd's felines in Rome, Georgia. I'll write it down. I'll ask them. But a lot of times, if you're not in the same county, they won't help you. So Floyd's feline, Floyd feline. And I'll write that down. But I'm looking at some resources now, and we'll see. But I'll end up if I could find somebody, and we'll see how much that's going to cost. But it can cost upwards to around $100 for TNR services. The only thing that really sucks about that too is they'll insist on tipping. And I hate that. And I don't mean giving a gratuity. I mean they clip the end off the like the cat's ear. Chillin says you'd need $1,200. Yeah, but or something like it. Like I was saying, if I can at least get the 4 females done before one of them ends up pregnant, at least it will stop. The breeding will stop. And then I can worry about the males later. But I might do, if I can find another local resource, I'll find out how much all of that would be, and I'll do another GoFundMe, and we'll see what happens. And thank you, Rodney. Rodney made a donation to the channel. Says for the kidneys. For the kitties. I appreciate it, Rodney. I really do. Every little bit, like I always say, every little bit counts. As we jump back into the news, that's enough personal news for the moment. But just putting the heads up there of what's going on, because a lot of people do ask. Puck says, I don't like the tipping either. Yeah, because sometimes they botch it. They tipped Hobo, and I asked them not to, and it looks like the vet tore the end of his ear off with his teeth. It's horrible. It's like half his damn ear is gone. And then you look at other cats like Miss Kitty, it's like 1/4 of an inch. You can barely tell it's been done. That's enough. That's all you need. You don't have to butcher the animal. Shit. But anyways, also if like my kittens are not feral because they're used to me and my wife handling them now. They're used to coming in and out of the back door. They're eligible. They would be good for adoption. They're not feral at all. But they're not feral at all. So, but if half their ears chopped off, people will look at them like, what's wrong with this one? Ladybug says the one commenting under this name is my grandson, the one I took out of after school government daycare. He's currently home doing the fall break and not in government daycare. Thanks you. Well, good. I'm glad you got him out of government daycare. It's horrible. It's horrible. But back to the news. Back to the news, and I'll keep you updated on the cats. Daily Caller article. This is something that warrants investigation. This is what Mayor Eric Adams is under indictment for. Top executive donated to Biden-Harris campaign after administration cut check to her Chinese-owned EV firm. Okay, talking about Biden and Harris here. The Biden-Harris administration gave a 6-figure subsidy to a China-linked electric vehicle company in late 2022, and roughly a year later, its president showered the Democratic presidential ticket with tens of thousands of dollars in donations, according to public records. BYD Americas, that's a Chinese company, BYD America, received $395,000 through the Biden-Harris administration's Clean School Bus program in October of 2022, according to the Environmental Protection Agency. Key Lai, the president of BYD Americas, then made 4 large donations to support President Joe Biden's re-election campaign on November 14th, 2023, funds that were transferred to Vice President Kamala Harris in July after the president dropped out of the election campaign finance disclosures show, which also, by the way, is unprecedented. You don't transfer funds. It's supposed to be reverted back to its source. We read that when it happened. The Biden-Harris administration has long touted its electric vehicle agenda as a way to revitalize American manufacturing and to counter Chinese economic growth. Funny, though, that it's hurting American manufacturing, and to, quote, counter Chinese economic growth, you give money to a Chinese company. Nice going, Biden. Much of the government spending to boost the industry, however, has been a financial boon for China as Chinese companies benefit from taxpayer-funded subsidies. No shit. Lai gave $33,400 to Biden's Victory Fund, which has since become the Harris Victory Fund, and made 2 $3,300 donations to the Biden campaign, now the Harris campaign, on the same day, according to campaign finance records. Lai's donations to the Democratic presidential ticket following the subsidy payment, which the Washington Free Beacon reported Thursday isn't the first instance of her donating to politicians who provide her company with taxpayer-funded contracts. Democratic California Governor, here it comes, Gavin Newsom, for instance, awarded BYD $990 million in a no-bid contract to provide his state with masks during the C virus pandemic. Wow. Wow. At which point, Lai donated a total of $50,000 to Newsom's 2018 and 2022 gubernatorial campaigns, according to state campaign contribution records. Must be nice. He should have gotten more. I mean, that's nearly $1 billion. Puck says Merrick Garland will be all over that case. Rodney says BYD says equals burn your driveway. Oh, yeah? Burn your driveway. This is something that both of those need to be investigated. $990 million in a no-bid contract to a Chinese company for masks. That's real fishy. And big campaign contributions from them. And then $33,400 to the Biden Victory Fund after receiving a $395,000 subsidy. BYD gets around because it was BYD. BYD is the one that also made the masks. Same company that made the masks is also making electric vehicles. That by itself is suspicious. That by itself is suspicious. I question that, ladies and gentlemen. I question that. It sounds like money laundering. It sounds like tit for tat. Tit for tat. Country says, were those masks made out of gold? No kidding. No kidding. That's something that's to be investigated. Both of those instances should be investigated. Are they going to be? And if they are, will anything come of it? Who takes a no-bid contract? That's part of the problem with the whole migrant industrial complex here. They're all no-bid contracts. No state government agency worth its salt accepts a no-bid contract. The function of a no-bid contract is supposed to be in a dire emergency. Okay? A dire emergency, like September 11th. Okay? The buildings are coming down. The streets are filled with smoke. Offer this money, buy as many masks as you can. We need all the respirators we can get our hands on. There's no time to take bids. That's what that's for. Not stuff like this. Anarchy says it sounds like someone is beholden to the Chinese. I know. Absolutely, and that's the problem. That's the problem. And DeSantis and Biden and Kamala have been benefiting from it. Putting out these massive, and that's not even that much back. You're going to put out $1 billion, almost $990 million, and you get back 50,000. What a great deal. What a great deal. They're not even smart with their money. At least 33,400 from a 395,000 contract is almost 10%. That's reasonable. That's somewhat reasonable. DeSantis should have gotten 9.9 million in campaign contributions then. He's not doing it. Somebody needs to talk to his business advisor. But I'm waiting for it. I'm waiting to see if that gets investigated. Waiting on bated breath to see if that ever gets investigated. As we shift gears, we're going to shift gears to Georgia. As you all know, I talked about this in detail. Because I was in the area and that is the biolab fire. But now it's getting really fishy. It was already fishy enough. It's already fishy enough that this is the third fire there in 7 years. Fire/explosion in 7 years. And there have been multiple since 2004 when they opened the plant. There have been all kinds of problems. Puck says cash transfers from Chi-Coms has been a Democrat tradition for decades. It's nothing new. That's a shame. New York Post article, Georgia environmental official collapses and dies near the state capitol after testifying about the toxic biolab fire. Uh-oh. And that's him, Kenny Johnson. Rockdale County Soil and Water Conservation District Supervisor collapsed and died on Tuesday. But check this out. Georgia environmental official died after suddenly collapsing near the state capitol on Tuesday during a public meeting on last month's toxic chemical plant Inferno outside of Atlanta. Kenny Johnson, Rockdale County Soil and Water Conservation District Supervisor, testified alongside business owners and leaders about the biolab chemical fire in Conyers, 25 miles outside of Atlanta, which spewed clouds of hazardous chlorine gas and smoke throughout the area. Because they're trying to permanently shut that plant down now. They do not want it to be repaired and reopened. Again, third time in 7 years, and the county's had it. And this is what he was testifying to, okay? Shortly afterwards, 62-year-old collapsed and was rushed to Grady Memorial Hospital, where he died. Fulton County Medical Examiner's officers said that due to the circumstances of Johnson's death, Georgia Bureau of Investigation wants to investigate. Official cause of death will be determined after an autopsy, okay? After delivering remarks, Johnson complained of shortness of breath and subsequently collapsed in the hallway after the meeting, according to the statement from the Georgia House Democratic Caucus. Okay? And here's a shot of that fire. Here's a shot of that fire and the plumes of smoke. Let me read this real quick. Nature Nerd says everyone around the Twin Towers when they collapsed got lung disease, probably from the asbestos going airborne. Yeah. And Nature Nerd wants to know if the chemical fire killed Johnson. No. But they suspect GBI, Georgia Bureau of Investigation, wants to investigate it because they think it's suspicious that after testifying basically against Biolab, when he walked out of the meeting, starts feeling short of breath and falls down in the hallway, and they rush him to the hospital and he drops dead. And more suspicious than that, they sent him to Grady. And if you're not from Georgia, you don't know what I'm talking about. Grady Memorial Hospital is where they send you when they want you to die. Anybody here in the Atlanta area? Grady Memorial Hospital is like just cutting out the middleman and sending you straight to the undertaker. Nobody wants to go there. Grady is where they bring homeless people they find knocked out on the street. Okay? So I cannot imagine a county official being sent to Grady for anything. They wouldn't send a county official to Grady for a hangnail. Kimberly says very suspect. Indeed. And Puck wants to know if he was up on his shots. Good question. Because we have seen an epidemic of strokes and heart attacks ever since all of that, haven't we? Especially with young people, and that's very sad. They're killing our children. Country says they better have an autopsy done with a toxicology report to check for poisons. And Kimberly says they're in Northwest Georgia. They're familiar with Grady. Then you know what I'm talking about, Kimberly. Let everybody know. If you're listening in another state or another country even, because I know people listen from the UK and all over, and Rodney there is in New Zealand. Grady, you'd be better off going to the vet and asking them to check you out on the slide than going to Grady. Grady is what should have burned to the ground. Oh my God. So that's suspicious right there. And All People says his death sounds as suspicious as the weird death of George Patton. Yeah, it is very suspicious. I would be very, yeah, that would make me nervous. I would want that investigated as long as, and also you got to be careful with investigations. Remember what happened when Governor Bill Clinton sent a special investigator to look into the deaths of those 3 bodies that were found on the train tracks when he was governor of Arkansas. Kimberly says you don't want to go there, period. I know. Exactly. I'm like, why did they send him to Grady? Are they trying to kill him? It's like, make sure this guy doesn't come back. Send him to Grady Hospital. Wow, I'm serious. It's where you send people when you don't give a shit. If you found if a homeless guy collapsed on the street from a heart attack, he goes to Grady. Really, it's the bottom of the barrel. Absolute bottom of the barrel. Now, this one I wanted to throw out there. It's one more involving one more that is involving the hurricane, because they are really blowing this up in the news big time. Okay, this is like top story. It's in all the news feeds. One more here from Puck. We'll find out later he was cremated within hours of his death per family request. No kidding. No kidding. USA Today article. Anderson Cooper hit by debris during CNN's live Hurricane Milton coverage. Okay. And there's your deep cover plant, Anderson Cooper there, who is an anomaly. Yeah, Kimberly says, why not Emory? It makes no sense. It makes 0 sense. He is an anomaly. This is what they want you to think all people within his community are, and they are not. The people from within that community that look like him and talk like him are an anomaly. I'm just telling you. So here we go. Anderson Cooper, 360 anchor struck in the face by debris during a live hit in Florida. Okay, and they are blowing this up and way out of proportion, because you read this and you think, oh my God, Anderson Cooper hit by debris. You think that a log like hit him and broke his ribs. And then it says in the article he was hit in the face. Now this is the clip, okay? That's the video clip. I'm going to run it for you, and I want you to watch carefully. Let me run this. There's no audio. Hold on, I'm going to try to catch it. It was right there, okay? Let me back it up just a hair. I think I got it. Is that it? It's so quick. Right there, okay? That's the debris. It didn't even break his stride. It did not hit his face. It hit his arm. And quite frankly, it looks like a piece of cardboard. It looks like, it almost looks like a vinyl record sleeve. And Kimberly says Anderson is a Vanderbilt. Yeah, very wealthy family. And Nature Nerd says, what kind of experiments are these scientists doing in the lab to cause these disasters? Who knows? And there's Monkey. Monkey says now all they have to do is get people to go out there and attack Mother Nature, see how well that goes for them. And Puck believes, and that's where I'm going, I think the assistant threw a debris at him, because, you know, he's the one that is famous for standing knee-deep in water and then having somebody walk by. Who remembers that? Because he was on his knees in the water. And I can play this audio for you. I think I can play. I don't know if I can play the audio without getting in trouble. But that's the debris. He turns away and says, whoa. It brushes off of his arm and keeps going. It looks to me, and it's hard to tell, but watching it fly by, it looks like a piece of cardboard. It's not dangerous, and he was not struck in the face. He's turned away here, and he's got his arm out and forward because he's got the microphone in his right hand. And yeah, like Puck said, I suspect it's possible someone threw that at him, that it was set up that way. But yeah, he was not harmed or anything. There he goes. He looks in the direction of it, and then he keeps on talking, because like nothing happened, because nothing did happen. But it's all over. It's all over the news feeds. Everybody, Anderson Cooper struck by debris in hurricane footage. He wasn't. I mean, you make it sound like a bicycle came down on him, or whatever. He was broadsided by a flying cow. Didn't happen. Monkey says, all I know from the hurricane is a guy apparently stayed in the 20-foot boat and ended up living. He got a new $100,000 boat and a Kick streaming website deal. Well, he made it work for him. But with that, we're going to go ahead and start wrapping things up, because we are at the end of the hour. Again, you are listening to and or watching Coffee Talk. And you can find the live portion Monday through Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on YouTube, at Coffee Talk Live, and at Prepper University. You can find me on X at Coffee Talk Chat and fistfulofradio.com. Special thanks to Kimberly and to Rodney for making donations to the channel today. Much appreciated. One last look at Uncle. He stayed with me the whole time. Knocked out on the floor there. He looks like a big sausage roll. Big furry sausage roll. But with that, we'll go ahead and sign off. Again, thank you to everyone else who was able to join us here today. Oh, and WCM is just chiming in. Sorry you're so late. Thank you to everybody who was able to join us here today. Hope you got something out of the conversation.